there's a map of Wisconsin, and this is the legend, all right? And if you're going to ruin the legend, just don't answer the question. But the legend is Deb puts a map of Wisconsin in front of you and does a circle and says you're free to choose anywhere in that circle.
That's right.
So how do you get to New Glarus?
Well, in my travels through my career, I had a lot of miles built up. We didn't have a lot of money at that time,
right?
But I had lots of miles, and those are back in the days when you could really redeem miles and fly somewhere,
right?
And so I flew from Colorado, from Denver to Madison, Wisconsin, rented a car, and it was February, and so Deb said, if you can handle Wisconsin in February, we'll be fine.
Right.
So I was on my way down to the Huber Brewery in Monroe to visit a friend, Dave Razanowski, who was the brewmaster down there, and I stopped for gasoline in New Glarus, and I said, you know, it's a really nice town. It reminds me a lot of Eying, the town that we lived at in Germany. So I called Deb and said, hey, you know, this is a nice town. She said, okay, that's it. Let's do it. So she is very much an entrepreneur. She's very much a take charge entrepreneur. I'm a technician. I'm not very good at. I'm very detailed.
Right.
And she's big picture.
Right.
So we complement each other well. And she said, let's do it. And so put together a business plan. So we worked together on putting together a business plan. I was talking to Brees Maltine, trying to get some of the costs to put together the business plan. They said, hey, you know, there's a foreclosure auction at a brewery up in Appleton. Maybe you might want to bid on that equipment. And I said, hey, Deb. And she said, let's do it. I said, but we don't have any money. And she said, I'll figure it out when we get there.
Right.
So she bid on the equipment and got the equipment. So I quit my job, and we found a warehouse in town. The guy who owned it gave us a year's free rent.
No way.
We traded them stock for ownership in the building, and after 1 year, we had to buy the building for $150,000, which I think if you're building a brewery, you should own the building. So that was Deb's, it was important to Deb. So now we had our first investor and we had a building. So we moved in and we started, it was myself and my father-in-law, and we went to work with a jackhammer putting in floor drains. And I think we probably had the fastest brewery startup ever. We went from walking in the building and put a broom on the floor to mashing in 3 months.
Wow.
And the only reason we did is because we had to. It's amazing what you can do when you have to. We had no choice because we only had so much money, and we would have been on the street if we hadn't. So we worked 20-hour days, 7 days a week, and pushed through and made it happen.
I want to go back to when you were working for a macrobrewery, when you were working for Anheuser-Busch, because one of the things I've read that you learned, and I'm sure is still vitally important today, is making a consistent product. Is that what you took away? You said you said that you'd learned more in those 3 years than just about anything else. Is it the consistency, the fact that when I get a spotted cow or a two women in a can, it tastes just as good at a grocery store as it would, although beer's always a little bit better at the brewery, right? I mean,
yeah, that's
no
right.
matter what.
That's right.
Is that the main takeaway? What was it that you learned when you were working for the big guys that you were able to?
Well, that's part of it.
Yeah.
To make a consistent glass of beer is really, really difficult. It's a continuous effort, and that's what I spend most of my time on is trying to make a consistent beer. But the other thing, people often ask me, what was it like working in Anheuser-Busch? And I don't know if people really comprehended what I meant, but Anheuser-Busch at that time was the world's largest small family-run brewery.
Right.
Meaning that August Busch III, he knew everything, he knew everybody, he knew all 13 breweries.
Right.
But the difference between a craft brewery and Anheuser-Busch was simply, the brewery I was at, we made 24 brews a day.
Wow.
So in a craft brewery, maybe people on average typically make 1 or 2 or 3 brews a day, although that's changed now. But when you're making 24 600-barrel brews every single day and making 10,000 barrels in a shift, everything and anything that can possibly go wrong does go wrong. So you learn very quickly how to, I've seen this before, I know how to solve this problem.
Right.
And that's, as I said before, that's one of the things about brewing, about being a brewmaster, is being able to deal with eventualities that come about. So if you have a background of knowledge and you've been through this What happens when a pump breaks at 2 o'clock in the morning and you've got wort in the whirlpool? What do you do? So those sorts of things, that skill set is extremely important. So not only did I learn the attributes of quality, I learned the requirements, or I learned how to deal with eventualities. I did my combat time.
It's 25 years ago. You and Deb are working 20-hour days, getting New Glarus up and running, and you're getting all kinds of input from people, I imagine. Here's the kind of beer you need to make. If you want to win in Wisconsin, if you want this thing to really take off, here's what you should do. And you took that advice, and what did you do?
And everybody has. Well, generally we try to, well, as I said, during our life, we had spent a lot of time watching what was successful and watching what was not successful.
Right.
So
I can't imagine being in the room when you offer someone a Spotted Cow, and they take a sip and they go, yeah, that's not going to work.
Sure.
Everyone's doing ambers. What you should do is an amber. Like, I can't imagine being in that room.
Well, that's pretty much, yeah, that's what happened.
I wasn't in the room. I'm just imagining.
Yeah, the thing is over the life of our brewery, we've made in excess of 200 beers.
Right.
So Spotted Cow was just one of 200. So we've thrown many darts at the dartboard, and some stick and some don't. But we have always tried very hard to be our own selves. Deb has a saying that we have around the brewery, to succeed, you must always strive to surpass yourself, not your competition.
Right.
So we've tried to not look sideways. We look always ahead, and we understand that our, as trite as it may sound, that we have to continually surpass ourselves. Once we realized, or I realized, Deb always knew that people are the most important. So then we realized that, hey, our business is not really about beer. Our business is about community.